Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Saturday morning. My name is Steven, and I am the host as always. And joining me is my guy Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How are you doing today?
Doing very well. I mean, there was an incredible, enormous LA win last night, and that was USC over Rutgers. Really a big game, really important game for everybody. Sorry about that, Mr. Alex Insdorf, but had to throw that one out there. But yeah, congratulations to the Dodgers on a heck of a first win. What a walk-off grand slam. Pretty fun stuff. I don't really care much for the Dodgers, but I'm rooting for Ohtani as an Angels fan, and screw the Yankees.
Yeah, very nice. That was very well set up. Very well set up. There were so many things happening in LA last night in that little 5 mile radius. So hopefully anybody that was in that area didn't have to get swamped by all of the traffic. But I'm not a baseball fan, and watching that Freddie Freeman home run, it gave me chills, and it's just such a cool moment. And like I said, I don't know a ton about baseball, but I know Freddie Freeman is just a really stand-up, classy individual. I know he's been dealing with this ankle injury. He can barely move out there. So what a cool moment for him individually. And then I don't have any strong feelings against the Yankees, but if I were to root for a baseball team, it probably would be the Dodgers. So good for them, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Of course, it would be nice for my Angels or any of my Southern California sports teams to win a championship. But yes, if the Dodgers win, that's fine. It's close enough. I accept it.
Yeah. We got a couple first timers here in the chat. So we appreciate you guys from Edgar Passos, first time catching one of these lives, both from Portugal. Lisbon, Portugal, one of my favorite places I have ever been to. Super underrated city to go visit. Went there when I was in Spain for a summer in college, and I loved Lisbon. The food's fantastic, super clean city. The views are awesome. Cliffs right onto the ocean. Great city. One of my favorites. Cannot recommend it enough to go check out Lisbon, Portugal. And then Alex as well. Cappuccino. That's Cappuccino. That would be hilarious if that's how you say that. I'm sure it's not, but he's also finally catching us live. So we appreciate that support as well.
That's a heck of a last name if you are not selling coffee. I'm sure you get this comment several times. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hopefully you're a coffee drinker.
Yeah, hopefully. Dan said Lisbon has the greatest sea bass I have ever had. The fish in Lisbon is fantastic. I have nothing but good meals in Lisbon. Cannot recommend it enough. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. Obviously, I do not speak Portuguese, but yeah, if you're ever in Europe, anybody listening, Lisbon should be on your list. Loved that city. All right. That being said, we're going to talk about the latest around the Chargers injury reports. Some big news regarding Mr. Joey Bosa, which we'll get into. And then we will take some questions today as well as we usually do on a Saturday morning. So super chats are always appreciated, and we'll ensure that your questions will get answered. If not, we will just jump around the chat as much as we can. So injury report, of course, have to start with Joey Bosa's return. Honestly, I watched the video of him speaking about his injury, and it's just sad that we're back in this place. Him talking about how he was in a dark place and he couldn't really move, and he was sleeping on a med ball because he was dealing with this glute injury that triggered some sciatic nerve issues. And he's talking about how he feels like he's letting everyone in the organization down, but he's excited to be back on the field. The Chargers obviously have missed him dearly, but it's just it sucked listening to him because it felt like a very similar conversation to the one that he gave in the 2022 season when he dealt with the groin injury, and now we're back here 2 years later. So it's a sad situation. I'm glad that he's coming back, but it was not a fun video to listen to hear him speak about that. So it just is super unfortunate. Hopefully he can get past this injury issue and be healthy the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's been an unfortunate grouping of events for him the past few years. Of course, he got the contract, and that's great. Earned it. One of the better edge rushers in the NFL, but it's the combination of the concussions and the mental health aspect of things, plus some pretty significant injuries. He hasn't had like he didn't blow out his knee. He's always had a chance to come back several times, even with some of the worst injuries he's had. But it's always something affecting him physically, of course, and then mentally. Like, does those things coming together, the intersection of those two things, it weighs a lot on him. And I genuinely do believe that he does feel awful about not being out there for his guys. Like, he does try to get out there. I think there are many times with some of those more catastrophic injuries where he probably could have just called it a season, and the Chargers could have just called it. And he tries to get out there. And I think it's kind of frustrating to see him, especially the last few weeks, but over the course of the past few years. Oh, is he questionable? Like, he's limited. He's oh no, he's not playing again. Like, why don't we put him on IR? It is frustrating, but that is also a player who's saying, no, like, I'm gonna try to come back. Do not put me on IR. I'm trying to come back now. And things happen, of course. He was going to come back, and then there was some more issues. So IR might have worked for 4 games, but he was trying to come back, and then there was a setback. He's always tried to come back. He's always trying to get back on the field. And when he's on the field, it's 110%.
Yeah.
So I hope in the chat we're not having conversations about like work ethic or character. Like, I'm not here for that conversation. I hope he can find something positive this season. This is 95% chance his last season with the Chargers, at least on his current contract. And so I hope he finds some success, some good health, some good mental health. And I hope obviously he plays on Sunday and plays very well.
Yeah, so he did say he's going to be on a snap count, which makes a lot of sense. Certainly not expecting him to play, 50, 60 plays, probably more closer to like 20 if we're lucky. A lot of third down situations, I'm guessing. But like I understand why fans are frustrated with all of the injuries, and I have the full list since the contract, which is very lengthy at this point in time. But you don't come back from that groin injury in 2022 if you're not like fully committed to the team, right? And you're not like fully committed to the playoff run and committed to everything like that. Like, coming back from that groin tear is an extremely grueling, difficult recovery. And I want everybody listening here to imagine tearing a muscle off of your groin, and like, you as a normal person trying to recover from that, let alone a professional athlete recovering from that in 3.5, 4 months, and then playing in a playoff game. And yes, the playoff game was not pretty. He slammed his helmet, whatever. I don't care. But the stuff that he has had to go through to try and consistently play for the Chargers it's a ton. And so I'm just going to read the list. This is since 2020, since he signed the contract extension. In 2020, there were 2 concussions. There was a foot sprain. There was a tricep sprain. In 2021, there was an ankle sprain, another concussion, and a finger issue in 2021. In 2022, there was obviously the groin tear, and then a core muscle injury off of the groin tear that had him limited at the end of the season. Then 2023 hits, and obviously he has the foot sprain, which ends his season at the very end. And he also had a minor shoulder injury before that as well. And then this year, as he's talking about in training camp, I'm finally healthy. I feel great. I'm hopeful to have all of these injuries behind me. He fractures his hand and requires surgery in training camp. He has a lower back issue, which he just said was basically nothing. And then this glute hip injury thing that is causing nerve damage in his sciatic nerve. It's like Tyler said, it's not an ACL. It's not anything that's been like, super severe in terms of like the severe injuries, but we're talking about 3 concussions, 3 different surgeries, a nerve issue. Like, he's going through a ton to try and be out here for the Chargers. And again, with this hip injury, like, it would be so easy to listen to him talk about that and be like, okay, like, you just need to go on injury reserve, rest, and a couple months from now, we'll see you next time. But he has worked his butt off to get back out here for the Chargers. And I understand the frustration about the injuries and the availability, but man, if he can just be healthy the rest of the way, it's such a huge boost to the Chargers and what they can do from a pass rush standpoint.
Yeah.
And I really, really am rooting for him to be able to do that. Like going through that stretch of injury history over the last 4 years is extremely difficult just from a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint, everything about playing football. He's been through hell to play for this football team. And that's one of the reasons why I've always defended him, is because people talk about these injuries as if he's like choosing to be injured and he's choosing not to play games. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And I hope for his sake he's able to get out here on Sunday, be healthy, and then continue to be healthy the rest of the way. Because he deserves to play some healthy stretches of football, man. And I hope that is the case going forward.
Yeah, I will not entertain any conversation about effort or character. Some people have brought in political stuff. I know people are like, well, you shouldn't, whatever. Like everyone's political, but like some people specifically point out his political stuff. And if you don't believe me, it's been in the comments.
And he's not even vocal about it. His brother is extremely vocal about it. Joey says nothing except talk about anime stuff in the offseason.
Yeah. So it has been very frustrating. Like objectively missed a lot of games, has not been worth the contract. Those things are very, very much so true. Yeah. But if you're a fan of the Chargers and you want the Chargers to win, you should be rooting for Joey Bosa to be out there, not sitting here, making fun of him or poking, whatever at him because of this and that. Like you want him out there. Bud Dupree and Thule together combined are averaging 3 pressures a game. Like that's not getting it done. Obviously, the defense hasn't really suffered overall, but you can see in the moments on drives or in a game against the Cardinals, or even just trying to stop Bo Nix, even though they won that game, they don't have that other guy. They don't have Joey Bosa. Yeah. And so if you're a fan of the Chargers, you should be rooting for him to be out there. The last thing I'll say on anything regarding character, if you bring it up, Khalil Mack respects him and Jim Harbaugh respects him. To me, if those two guys respect him and want him out there, I think we should too.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, revisionist history this week about like keeping Keenan or Mike and choosing to cut Joey. The reality of the Chargers situation is that they had to go into the offseason and Mike Williams was going to get cut. That was always going to happen. That injury and that contract, it was not a situation worth, keeping around. So they went to the other 3 and they asked all 3 what they would be willing to do with their contracts. And the 2 that were going to be willing to work with them on the contracts were going to be the 2 that were going to stay. And it's the player's right in that situation to say, hey, I don't want to take a pay cut. I've earned it. Khalil Mack had one of, I would say, the best season of his career last season, and he was still willing to take a pay cut. He was well within his rights to say, nah, man, like I'm Khalil Mack. I'm not taking a pay cut. And Keenan Allen was in his right to do that. And Joey Bosa was in his right to do that. Nobody should be forced to take a pay cut. I'm sure everybody listening to this chat, if your boss came to you and said, hey, we want you to take a pay cut, and you're going to be like, hell no, I'm out of here. And sometimes that happens. So Keenan Allen chose what he chose. The Chargers chose to move on, and I miss him dearly. I would love to have him on this specific team. But this is not just in a vacuum. They chose Joey over Keenan. They chose the player who was willing to work with them and stay on an amended contract. And then Jesse Minter comes in. He's like, hey, man, like these edge rushers are different. And we want to build our plan around the edge rushers. It hasn't really planned out that way just quite yet. But the team was super excited to work with Joey Bosa. And, hopefully this is, a sign of things to come. Hopefully Thule can kind of get back in his natural role as a third edge rusher instead of a number 2. Mm-hmm. So I think Joey coming back is nothing but positive, even if it's just 15, 20 plays on third down. If this is like the Von Miller role that he's doing in Buffalo, that's honestly cool with me. And I know the contract is not worth that kind of role, but whatever gets Joey fully healthy and impacting the games from here on out, I'm on board with. So it should be a boost to the defense because, like you mentioned, the pass rush has just not been. It's been Khalil and not much else. So getting Joey back in any kind of capacity is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Same story. Like, there's nothing really we can add here about the injury on the field versus off the field. Like, is he on the field? Is he playing or is he not? But watching that game against the Raiders, and you're just looking at the numbers, I think it was like, what, 3 pressures, a sack, 6 stops, a forced fumble, batted pass. Like, it was, there were so many closer wins than that too in that game. Like that potentially coming back, even at half capacity for the rest of the season. If they decide, hey, the best course of action, Thule is right now a great run defender. Undeniably a great run defender, even statistically so. So is Joey just going to be our, like you mentioned, the Von Miller situation, more of our pass rusher, obvious situations guy for the entire rest of the season? Maybe we crank it up towards the end of the year if we're looking at the postseason. I'd be all for that. If they, like, I know it's not going to be worth the money, of course, as you said, but it is more worth it to me to spend for the Chargers to spend that money on him to play 20 to 25 snaps a game than spend money on him to play 2 games of 60 snaps and they get hurt and then no more games the rest of the season. So if the plan for him is 20 to 25 snaps a game, hey, I'm cool with that for now. Crank it up. I'm sure there will be games where he plays a lot more than that because he is Joey Bosa and he is arguably the best of the edge rushers in this group.
Yeah.
But I don't mind if they take it slow to begin with and for a very long time.
Yeah, we kind of thought heading into the season with Thule and Bud, maybe they kind of scale back the workload of Khalil and Joey, and that didn't happen in week 1. Khalil and Joey played their normal, usual snap loads, and it looked great, right? Like those 2 players completely changed that game. So, I would love to see Joey in kind of a reduced role, just because I think the amount of things that he has to put his body through at this point is just not really a tenable situation. So, float into that DPR role, lengthen your season a bit here and then show other teams, hey, I'm willing to do this kind of role going forward, because like Tyler mentioned, it's just, a situation where he probably is moving on after this season. So Tyler Thompson asking about this. Do you think Chargers cut Joey and sign him to a new cheaper contract? If Joey's willing to work with them, maybe, but if you're Joe Ortiz and you have to choose between signing Khalil back or signing Joey Bosa back, like, it's a very easy decision. You're choosing to sign Khalil Mack 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. We sort of discussed this before. The money already goes to Khalil Mack as is.
Yeah.
But then any money you would have spent on bringing back Joey Bosa, divert that to your Christian Fulton, to your Elijah Molden, to these guys. Not that I don't trust the defense or Minter or Ortiz to go out and find other guys, but
yeah,
I would rather it go to 3 or 4 guys that are making this defense great than one guy who could make it even better, but it's a huge question mark.
Yeah. Another super chat here from Gary. How much money will trading Bosa free up next year? I don't think any team's really going to trade for him, especially on his contract. So it's a reduced contract, so it's not as much as it was previously. But other teams are not going to want to inherit his contract. So this is essentially going to be the Mike Williams kind of conversation from last offseason. The most likely outcome is that the Chargers cut him. They save the $25 million. And then Joey can, if he wants to keep playing, which I don't know, if I were in Joey Bosa's corner and he was my friend, I would probably encourage him to be like, hey, man, like, let's take a beat here and see how much we really want to keep doing this. But if he wants to move into that mercenary role that, like, Jadeveon Clowney has done, and obviously like Kyle Van Noy, like, go take a $8 million contract to go rush the passer for X team, maybe 49ers, unfortunately, would probably, love to have him. But that's just probably the most likely outcome for him. And the Chargers, unfortunately, will cap-wise be glad to make that move, I think.
He'll go to the Chiefs, won't he?
No, I don't think he'll do that. I would hope not. I don't know. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. I think if Joey is gonna,
he wouldn't do it out of revenge or anything. I'm just saying, like,
right. The Chiefs will offer him a contract, I'm sure. I think if Joey keeps playing, it's probably with the 49ers or a team in Florida where he's from, or not from, but lives, maybe back to Ohio to kind of revisit some roots there. He seems like that kind of role where it's like, He wants to play maybe closer to home, probably in a state with less taxes. Would be great for him, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But unfortunately, it's probably the swan song for Joey Bosa with the Chargers. NSN with another Joey Bosa super chat here. Even 10 key plays, all on third down in the game would be enough from Bosa.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. More than 10 would be nice, but 10 third downs would be, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, Tyler, any other thoughts on Joey Bosa's return?
Just stay healthy, man. Stay healthy. We're all, or most of us, or at least the two of us, are definitely rooting for you. My mom is rooting for you in the super chats as well. Stay healthy. You got this. Go tear it up. Not yourself. Very bad verbiage. Break a leg, buddy.
Even that one. I don't know about that one. But yes, Miss Andrea Schoon, amen to that. I hope Joey Bosa is listening. Amen to that. I hope Joey Bosa is listening. Joey, if you're listening, you're welcome to come on the show anytime.
Anytime, dude. We can just talk about anime or whatever. I don't know what else. I don't like Raisin Bran, but I'll eat some Raisin Bran with you on a show if you're into that. Whatever works.
Raisin Bran was my dad's favorite cereal when we were growing up, and we would always make fun of him because we would be eating, like the good stuff, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Captain Crunch, all that. Yeah. And then dad would pull out Raisin Bran.
Yeah.
So
there's like one 5-second robot chicken sketch where he's just like 2 scoops and he's like attacking a town. I don't know. It just cracks me up. It's in my brain somewhere.
Yes. Okay, other Chargers news. The wide receiver room. I don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. The good news is that Ladd McConkey was able to practice yesterday, at least in a limited fashion. Somehow listed as questionable, which I think is good news for him. He's still dealing with that hip injury. So Jim Harbaugh kind of brought up the punt return plan. Which maybe made it seem like Ladd is going to play. Maybe it's in a limited kind of fashion, but Jim said basically the punt return plan is that Ladd will handle the punts where basically you're just fair catching it, or you're just trying to make sure that you're not giving up a muffed punt. And then Jalen Reagor will handle kind of the returnable punts, which I didn't love like the correlation there. But like I said, it did make it seem like Ladd is going to play. So he did not practice for the most of the week, but he did practice in a limited fashion yesterday. DJ Chark, coming back from his groin issue that has had him on IR this whole time, he has been limited all week as he was last week. Seems like based on the pictures, getting a good amount of work with the first team offense. So we'll see what happens there. And then Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis are both doubtful. So I don't know, man. Like at least Ladd is questionable. Like that's good news. But it's tough sledding for the wide receiver room right now from an injury standpoint.
I think it's hilarious that they're openly saying, okay, if we definitely can't fumble it, it's going to be McConkey. But if it's okay, maybe that we fumble it, we'll give it to Reagor. Okay, sure. Yeah, might muff a few punts. Yeah, basically. And they switched out last week. It was Reagor first and then McConkey the second punt. Yeah. I don't recall exactly where they were fielded. But yeah, that doesn't inspire a ton of confidence when they're openly saying that. But all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that McConkey is even potentially playing because he was beat up in the prior game against the Broncos, several injuries. I mean, he would run a route play and then just like limp kind of back over. And
there was that play. There was that play against the Cardinals where he kind of had to like reach back, and it was like the bad hip, and then he like stayed on his knee for like a good 2 seconds. I was like, oh no.
You could just see him like, oh man, like that's gonna hurt. Great. I don't know how much he'll be able to contribute fully, but any bit would be nice. I mean, we'll never know how much the Broncos were going to divert attention to him. But the fact that the first play of the game, Pat Surtain was on him, means the NFL is kind of getting this whole thing that McConkey's pretty good. So we'll see how that plays. You know, the Saints just have like good corners across the board. So I don't know how much shadowing there will be, but he diverts a lot of attention. And so it'd be nice to have the speedy receiver that you wanted and the slot guy playing at the exact same time. I would hate to lose one, get the other one back, and you still can't quite get a feel for your whole offense.
Yeah, we're into week 8, and obviously next week is kind of the halfway point of the season. So not having Chark and Ladd and Quentin and Palmer, like all these guys have dealt with injuries, and it just is it like I'm not excusing a lot of the play calling issues, and the Chargers do need help at the wide receiver position. I think they should be aggressive next week to go out and potentially acquire someone. But none of the guys have been healthy. You know, the only players in the receiver room that have stayed healthy are Simi Fehoko and Brendan Rice. And Brendan Rice actively cannot get on the field. So
and Simi was hurt.
Simi was hurt. You're correct. So Brendan Rice, the player who has not played, is the only player in the room who has stayed healthy.
Yeah. Somewhere Cornelius Johnson is healthy.
Yeah. It's just been tough, man. And it's very difficult to gain any kind of serious momentum as a passing offense when that's the situation. And then also Hayden Hurst has been injured, and now Will Dissly is injured. Thankfully, Will Dissly is listed as questionable. Again, similar to Ladd McConkey, I don't understand how this is going to happen. So I imagine we're not getting 11 targets from Will Dissly if he plays, but him being out there, again, it's a game changer. He is such a joy to watch on tape every single week. He is a fantastic run blocker. He's blocking edge rushers one-on-one in passing situations. He's a legitimately impactful player every single week. And, you know, pass catching, not really his bag every single week traditionally, but he is also on pace for a career high in receiving yards right now. So not having Will Dissly out there would be huge, but it seems like he is potentially going to try and play.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Part of the second half issues. First off, Jose, calm down, dude. Like, no fap until Chargers score a second half touchdown. Like, give yourself a little bit of a break, buddy. But I think dedicated fans for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite comments we've ever gotten live.
The sad thing is, I'll be thinking of him in the second half of next week of the game tomorrow. I'll be like, oh man, poor Jose.
Oh my gosh.
That's taking No Way Jose to a whole different level. Good luck, buddy. Good luck with that one, dude. Do what you got to do. Everyone's got a little superstition thing. I choose to maybe wear like a socks or something, and you choose to not use your socks. So well, I don't remember what point I was trying to make.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Good luck to the offense, I guess. Good luck to Jose.
Oh, I'm so dead. Oh man, Jose, that was fantastic. Thank you for that. That was great. On the more positive injury news, Christian Fulton and Jasir Taylor do not have an injury designation. So the secondary, minus Asante Samuel Jr., getting healthy at the right time. So will be very interesting to see how Jesse Minter handles the slot position. Does Tarheeb start on the outside, or does Cam Hart start on the outside? I think it should be Cam Hart. I think he's been a better player so far. But Tarheeb also has flashed some real moments as well. So I think we probably see Christian Fulton will be his usual CB1 self, and I think the other three probably rotate in some capacity.
Yeah, I think so. But I would prefer Cam Hart set and forget on the outside. He played some in the slot, if I recall. I just don't remember how much against the Cardinals. But yeah, keep him mostly as that boundary outside guy with Fulton. I want to see those two taller-ish corners out there. The way they play. I love the way they play and how they fit in this defense. So, yeah.
He had 3 snaps in the slot.
I saw them.
Cardinals.
They existed.
He had 15 in the box, so that must have just been like kind of motion, and then he just kind of shifts over kind of deal. But
no receiver on his side sort of thing. Yeah.
Because there were several times where he was matched up versus Trey McBride, and so I think that's probably where you see that. So I think Cam Hart's a real player for them, and I think he should keep that role.
Yeah, you got 2 more games to really know, and then you got to make a decision.
Yeah. Asante's injury was a shoulder injury. We never really got like a timeline or anything like that. So will be interesting to see what they do once he comes back. Final thing there on the injury news. I forgot to mention this with the receiver stuff, but the Chargers roster currently sits at 52. They do have an open spot. They've been doing the whole like sign somebody for a week and then release them. They did that with Shaun Wade last week. It kind of seems like that spot would be reserved for DJ Chark's activation. But if they wanted to, do that again with Jefferson or with Shaun Wade or whoever, they could certainly do that. We're probably a couple hours away from figuring out what exactly their plan is, but it seems like we're trending towards Chark making his debut, which, given the rest of the receiver room, would be a huge boost for them.
Was Mustafa signed to the active roster, or is he an elevation?
No, he was just elevated. So they could also sign him, which is crazy. But anyways, that could be his spot too, theoretically.
It could be. But should it?
No, but we'll see what it is. Oh, I kind of forgot about this. We're getting the Slater versus Chase Young rematch. Chase Young's not very good anymore, but I
think he's got 27 pressures on the year, which was a surprise to see, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not what he was billed to be as the best of the three Ohio State edge rushers.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to, like what we're going through with Marvin Harrison Jr. potentially. Granted, I think he's just not in a great situation, but not great starts for the two players who were supposed to be like the best of their specific positions at Ohio State.
Yeah. Yep. At least I don't have to hear the announcers say, throw it to Marvin for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Draw up a play for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah. That ESPN Plus experience, I don't know about everybody else, but it was not super fun for me.
It wasn't fluid either. Like, they don't have chemistry.
Yeah. The booth is for two people. Having three people there it's just not, it's not a good fluidity is the right way to say that.
Sure.
Okay, that's it for the Chargers injury news. We will start taking some questions here. So like I said earlier, obviously Super Chat's appreciated, and we'll ensure that your questions get answered. If not, we will jump around going forward. So on the Saints side of things, just really quickly, unfortunately, they are getting pretty healthy. Most of the guys who have been injured are coming back. So Chris Olave, Taysom Hill will be returning this week, as well as some of their defensive players are going to be back as well. So Saints getting healthier, but they will be starting Spencer Rattler this week instead of Derek Carr. So Derek Carr probably returning for them next week. So just real quick, wanted to mention that.
Cool.
Yeah, ESPN Plus got 2 million views, which is
dang,
an awful Monday Night Football. But like, you put the worst matchup on ESPN Plus, like nobody's gonna really tune into that. Like, that was probably all Southern California and Arizona doing the heavy lifting there.
Right. Oh well, 2 million views. That's rough.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back to some of these super chats in the meantime. This earlier from Mickey Carroll. How much of our receiver separation problem is scheme versus personnel? Sean McVay is scheming up 5th and 6th string, but they also have Puka and Kupp. What are your thoughts about the receivers and separation?
I think I'd say it's 80% personnel. I don't think what they're trying to do works, maybe with the guys that they have and also with the guys that they have that are also injured. I mean, they're playing guys out there who are trying to come back from, like, McConkey's trying to come back from an injury. Palmer finally came back from an injury. Chark, when he gets out there, is coming back from an injury. Everybody's kind of hurt. So you really can't be your full self either. It's no surprise that we see Palmer getting better as he's further away from the injuries, separating more, higher yards per route run. So I think it's like 80% personnel. I don't think it's as much Greg Roman. Greg Roman, for me, the issues are more so, like, my issues with them is more like offensive line and execution and stability. Yeah. More so than just like receivers getting schemed open.
Yeah, I think you hit that right on the head. I think, Ladd is a natural separator, but he's been injured. Joshua Palmer is a good separator, but it's not obviously an elite separator. So if you look at, whatever kind of metrics you're looking at, whether that's like ESPN's open score or, PFF separation grades, Palmer and Ladd are kind of separating right now around the 50-60% range. And then Quentin, it has been better, but it's not obviously a high receiver separation grade material. I think he's around like 35%. So much improved from last season. But he's also been injured. So some of it is personnel, some of it is scheme. Greg Roman is not Sean McVay. I will also say that Sean McVay is one of the three best play designers in the league right now, and you're combining that with good players in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and even Demarcus Robinson's a good player, and things like that. Plus, you have Matthew Stafford who's playing at a super high level. So some of that is that, but Greg Roman, we talked about this earlier, has not been dealt like a super conducive wide receiver health report so far. So it's a layered issue. Greg Roman deserves some blame. The receivers are just naturally not great separators, across the board. So that also deserves, and then the injury also. So it is a few layers here, but scheme is not, it's not a great passing scheme, but it's not as bad as people are kind of making it out to be either.
Yeah, I agree there.
From NSN, we have the best scoring D in the NFL, so I'm not worried about the D. I am really worried about the offense. My hopes rest on DJ Chark, parentheses, no trade.
What about the offense? My hopes rest on DJ Chark.
I think this is like long term.
Yeah, I'm definitely not worried about the defense long term. This season, if we're long term, season long. Offense, hope rests on DJ Chark. I guess the issue with DJ Chark, and it's always kind of the issue, is that very different contract than Joey Bosa, but he's dealt with several injuries. So the potential for him to be out there and be good is there. But okay, he comes out and solves your problems for 2 games. Is there another injury that pops up? I don't know. This injury has taken longer than I would have expected, actually, given the start of the season. I thought we'd be past this, but still going through it. So hopefully not too much of your hopes on DJ Chark.
Yeah. And DJ Chark is going to help. Like he's their most vertically inclined wide receiver on the roster right now. Outside of Jalen Reagor, apparently. So DJ Chark will help, but he's not a separator either. And separation wise, he was like next to Quentin Johnson last year. But he can get vertical, he can do the contested catch stuff, he can be a weapon in the red zone. So it will help if he is healthy, but the other guys also have to get healthy too. So DJ Chark is not a number one, and that's not going to like drastically change the offense, but he will help if everybody else is also healthy.
Right.
Somebody's talking about Myles Garrett in the chat. Oh. Trade Bosa for Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is not available for trade.
Yeah, I actually just was reading Diana Rossini's article this morning and said Garrett, Crosby, like those guys are not available for trade.
Yeah. The NFL has become more willing to trade pass rushers. I was actually like looking at this earlier this week, and edge rusher is the most frequently traded position in the league. But we're talking about guys like Chase Young to the 49ers. We're talking about like Yannick Ngakoue. We're talking about, that kind of pass rusher. And outside of Von Miller to the Rams, we usually do not get a player of that kind of caliber. And Von was at the end of his career and at the end of his contract. Guys like Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, you don't trade those players. Even if your team is bad, you hold on to the elite edge rushers because they can make your defenses, have such a high floor, even if you are bad. And so, those kind of players, they're just not available. And again, using the Browns here is also kind of funny. The Browns, they're one of the most analytically driven front offices in the league. They would take one look at the games missed for Joey Bosa and hang up immediately. So I understand, this is trade season, etc. But if you're looking for a pass rusher on the Browns, he's not the one that is available. Everybody else on that line probably is available, but Myles Garrett is considered untouchable.
Yeah. Yep.
Ben Herbert in here. That's funny.
Hey,
I'm genuinely so disappointed with how successful the run game has been this season, especially after the 2 first games. What's your kind of vibe right now with the run game so far?
I think until last week's game, it was, hey, healthy line. Dobbins good. Disley obviously healthy, good. Then Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater go down and they can't run as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like that makes sense. Those guys are the focal point, especially off the left side. Both Joe Alt can do on the backside. Like, so those guys missing hurts a ton. And then they just got smacked against the Cardinals, which is still inexplicable to me.
Yeah.
I'm not worried long term, but I want to see Vidal a bit more involved this week. I just want to see, not that I'm trying to take snaps away from Dobbins. I just want to see more from him. I want more of a sample size from him to see what he can do as a runner. Because I see him working. Yeah, there's like a dump off on the 2-minute drill. He got 9 yards, but like he splits 2 defenders, gets like another couple. You see him when he runs. He gets another extra yard or 2. I want to see him get a bit more involved. Maybe that'll help just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think J.K. Dobbins has been bad by any means, but I am a little worried about giving him this kind of workload that they've been doing. I mean, he still is coming off of the Achilles, obviously, and so I would love to get Vidal more involved. It was interesting to see that he was like the 2-minute back, like you mentioned. So that seems like they are trusting him more and more in that specific role. Maybe we see him get involved in the pass catching department again this week. In the red zone, they actually did try to design a Texas route opportunity for him. He was the number 1 read on that play. I think they were hoping to get him against a linebacker, and they ended up getting him against I forget which safety it was, but it wasn't Buddha, but it was one of their other safeties, and it didn't go well. So I think getting him more involved, which is good to see, but I am a little concerned about JK. But if you look overall, like Tyler mentioned, when the tackles have been out there, it's been 3 of 4 games have been very, very positive. So hopefully that trend can continue.
Yeah.
Our guy Frank Blakely in here. I actually met him at the Chiefs game. So Frank
nice.
Frank's a great guy. It was great to chat with him in person for the first time. He said, "What's up, guys? Can we talk about the reality of how much Bosa is missing from the pass rush?"
Yeah, I mean, Pro Football Reference has them at 30 pressures, second worst in the league this season as an entire defense, which, I don't know. PFF's numbers are completely different, but that's fine. Regardless, they're not getting a ton of pressure. So Joey Bosa being back would be awesome, even in a limited pass rush role.
Yeah. His pass rush win rate in the game and a half he's played is at like 18%. Right now, the only pass rusher on the Chargers who's above 10% is Khalil. So getting another guy out there is just going to help tremendously. And then also it just kind of takes a different gravity, right? Because then you can't always just double team Khalil. You have to worry about Bosa as well. So it just changes things dramatically. It puts Thule in a position where I think he can be a little bit more efficient. Okay, so good timing from Frank here. Why hasn't Thule had an impact this year? He's an awesome run defender. One of the best edge defending run defenders in the league. I think honestly with Thule, they're asking him to do so many different things that I think it's impacting his ability to pin his ears back and rush the passer. And even against the Cardinals, like I only probably counted like 6 or 7 true like one-on-one against an offensive tackle pass rush opportunities for Thule. They have him rushing against guards very frequently. They have him stunting very frequently. They drop him into coverage. He's on punt team. He's on kickoff team. He's on kick return team. He's a core 4 special teams player. I do think Thule is just being asked to do too much, and that's why we're not seeing as much of a pass rush impact from him.
Yeah. Well said.
Thank you. Okay, we did get another super chat in here. NSN wanted to know, did we expect more from Joe Ortiz this year?
Only specifically on the interior offensive line. That's the only thing that we were puzzled with the entire way at this point.
Yeah.
And it has definitely not been great in that department. Otherwise, no, I don't think I expected more. I think he's exceeded expectations. Even he wasn't our number one candidate by any means, but he's exceeded expectations. He's walked the walk from a lot of what he's talked about wanting to do for this team. So he's been awesome. Just the one thing, but that's
Yeah.
it's not a minor thing, but it's one thing out of 20 good things he's done.
Yeah, you look at all the instant impact he's been getting from the free agents. I mean, Fulton has been a hit. Puna has been a hit. Denzel Perryman has been a fantastic return. He's been a great run defender. Traded for Elijah Molden, who's been awesome. We all wanted him to trade for a backup quarterback, and he did that for Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
You're talking about some of these other additions. You know, we haven't
Hard.
seen DJ Chark just quite yet, but we'll see what happens there. Bozeman's been as advertised as a run blocker and as advertised as a pass protector, unfortunately. So yeah, the center position in particular is like my only big gripe from what Joe Ortiz has done. Other than that, I think he's been fantastic.
Funny enough, because in Baltimore, they didn't really have the center position stabilized for a very long time. Not that it was bad. They just never had their guy. And then, but the very end, of course, they got Linderbaum. And then now it's that. So it's interesting that that's kind of the neglected position so far.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there next year. The free agency class, I think, has been, it'll be interesting to see if guys like Coleman Shelton and Connor Williams can kind of maintain their positive play. If they can, then the free agency center position will have some good options. Right now, it just kind of seems like Ryan Kelly and nobody else. But hey, man, if they can get Ryan Kelly next year, that solves a ton of their issues, and that would be a fantastic signing. And talking with Alex Katzin, who's going to be joining me tomorrow because Tyler's not going to be here tomorrow. The center draft class is kind of gaining some steam, which is great to see. So I would have loved, obviously, to have a guy like Bo Limmer, who's playing awesome for the Rams, and he was a 6th-round pick, or obviously Hunter Norzad was my guy, like Tanner Bartolini. These guys who are available late and playing well, would be great to see them on the Chargers. But I think next year we'll see them kind of, attack that position much more heavily.
Yeah.
Next one in here from Edgar. I think we see a DL resurgence this week. One look at Rattler, next to Carr on the sideline, and Bosa and Mack will go rabid.
Yeah, close enough. By association, go after Rattler, I guess. Rattler, I believe, can move better than Carr did. So that'll make things a bit more tricky. But yeah, over under 1.5 penalties for Trevor Penning this week, who only has 5 so far this year.
Yeah. According to ESPN's numbers, Penning has actually been better than Fuanga, which I would not have been on my bingo card. So Fuanga has been one of like the 6 or 7 worst offensive tackles in pass block win rate, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So that should be fun for Khalil this week.
Yeah. I was thinking more like guard and not switching sides for him. Yeah. So switching and playing tackle is a little bit rough for Fuanga.
Yeah.
Nelson, I have an innie.
What a question.
No, I'm not showing it.
Same on both fronts. Gary, can we realistically fill some needs, parentheses center guard in free agency next year, so that we can utilize the draft for other needs, pass rusher, CB, tight end, etc.?
Yeah, would love them to not have to wait and see with a center. Just go get a free agent center, a veteran center, a good, high quality, the one that's there, and maybe some others we'll see. But go solve that problem. Don't worry about should we take a center in the first round or the second round? Just go solve it. Find another guy in the draft as well, but solve it in free agency. Focus on what sounds like could be corner in the first round, interior defensive line. They really need to invest a defensive pick in the first round at this point.
Yeah, I think for me right now, the Chargers have kind of an older defense and a younger offense. I would like to see that even out a bit. Give this offense some stable veterans, particularly up front. Maybe go pay for, kind of an upgrade from DJ Chark in the wide receiver department. See what you can get in tight end. It sounds like a great tight end class. I definitely want to address that once we get to the offseason. But I would spend on offense and then draft defense I think if there's like a no-brainer defensive tackle free agent, you can go get that guy by any means. But
Sure.
I'm kind of okay with letting Jesse, assuming he's back, and the rest of this staff continue to develop their young corners, their young linebackers. You bring Puna back, you bring a Molden back, and you just kind of fortify the depth there. But this defense needs some young building block players, and I would love, frankly, to just see them get, their future edge one and their future CB1 maybe in the draft in the first 2 rounds, and then you can kind of, help give the defense some young studs to work with.
Yeah, but ask us in 3 months and then 5 months and then 6 months. Like, I don't know what this receiver class looks like outside of a couple of the names. I have no idea who. There's like one defensive lineman. There's some guys from Michigan.
Yep.
So,
yep.
That's all I know.
There's like some players that we, were able to kind of study by adjacency from last year that are going to be this year's guys. Obviously, we watched a ton of the Michigan defense, so very familiar with Will Johnson and Mason Graham. We'll see what happens with those two, but it sounds like they both will be gone much higher than the Chargers will be picking. But Michigan has some other players as well. GE, real quick, Steven, is it possible we see Eli Apple play some snaps tomorrow? No, he's still in the practice squad, and they don't need to elevate him. I do think it could be possible that he is kind of like their corner trade edition once he gets up to speed. I don't know. I do think it's possible he does end up on the active roster at some point. But right now, their cornerback room is pretty healthy outside of Asante being out, and they should be pretty fine at that position.
Yeah, I agree.
Danny G, who are your top wide receiver trade options? We are going to address some of this next week as we get closer to the trade deadline. But he says, I know you guys express interest in Mike Will due to chemistry, but I have him firmly behind Deontay and Slayton. Would love to pair Njoku and Slayton.
We'll get into it. And then, I don't know. I can't really get to this question with a straight face.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get into it next week. But those are good names.
Yes, good names. Slayton is my top choice. I think I said that on Thursday just because of the vertical aspect of things.
Yes.
Thule needs Chris Rumpf back. Not quite. Thule needs Joey Bosa back. Chris Rumpf is on season-ending injury reserve for what it's worth.
Yes. Although maybe he means Chris Rumpf can take a special teams role, and that's kind of maybe what he means.
If that's what he meant, then yes, I agree. This team needs Ryan Williams or Jeremiah Smith from the next draft. Aren't those two freshmen?
I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I think those two are freshmen. Tyak, do you think the fourth down aggressiveness this season is based more on confidence in our defense or lack of confidence in the offense?
As in lack of aggressiveness?
Yeah.
I think it's confidence in the defense. I think it generally has been maybe a lack of, it's confidence in Cameron Dicker as well in several instances. And I think many times they've had opportunities, but the quarterbacks across from them haven't been very scary. I think they don't have to worry about that as much. And they've generally been like in control of the game too. So I don't know if it's ever been warranted. I think when we get to the stretch of Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, I don't know what the Bucs are going to be, but Baker Mayfield, they've at least played good offense. I don't know how that's sustainable that'll be with guys out. But once they get to that stretch, maybe we see it more. But I don't really have a bone to pick with most of the options so far.
There's been a couple decisions where I wish Jim Harbaugh would be a little bit more aggressive. But this is kind of who he is. It's who he has been. Even though he's a former quarterback, he generally is a pretty conservative fourth down play caller. And it's just kind of the way he's, he believes in playing defense and field position, ball control, all that stuff generally leads to a more conservative approach. But yes, there are definitely some decisions where I wish he would go for it more often. But you have an awesome kicker, you have a great defense, so you can kind of live with those decisions. If this were the Brandon Staley defense and he was being conservative, that's an issue, right? Because your defense can't stop anybody. So trusting Jesse Minter in the defense, I think, is generally a sound approach, but I would love to see some more aggressive decision making going forward. Brandon asking if we've watched the LSU guards. No, not a ton of draft prep for the two of us quite yet.
No, only by, hey, I'm watching the tackle or I'm watching the center.
Yeah,
I forget the center's name from last year, but watched him, watch the guards kind of by association, but nah.
Yeah. Isaiah and Kelsey Lewis, do you think Jim Harbaugh genuinely believes he can win a Super Bowl, or is he an extremely good actor?
I mean, I think Jim Harbaugh believes that he can win a Super Bowl. Yeah. I don't see why a coach who's, been to one and then also won a national championship wouldn't think he can win a Super Bowl. Does he say something like this year that they were going to win a Super Bowl, or is this just like a general thing?
General thing.
Oh, then yeah, I think he genuinely believes it. I think he genuinely believes he can. And I don't think he would be himself if he didn't believe that he could. I know everyone probably believes that they can. I think Jim Harbaugh believes through and through, for better or worse, that I can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh is very intentional with the media, but he's not very good at hiding things in terms of like what he believes. So he's very upfront. He would not have come back to the NFL if he didn't actually believe he could win a Super Bowl. He would not have chosen the Chargers for that. He was at a great situation in Michigan. And I know that the NCAA probably would have suspended him, which I think is complete nonsense. But you don't leave off of a national championship to the NFL if you don't actually genuinely think you can win a Super Bowl at that level. It's the only reason he is back. And he's been very upfront with that. He wants to win a Super Bowl. He thinks that's the next thing that kind of will put him, on the upper echelon of coaching. And so it's just, it's the reason why he came back, and it's the reason why he chose the Chargers. So I think he genuinely believes he can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and according to half the internet, he also wants to trade Justin Herbert. That's why he came back too. He wanted to dump Justin Herbert and go get somebody else.
Yeah, despite all of the public statements and all of the articles, we are still getting trade Justin Herbert nonsense from some idiot in New York who had no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, and now he's wearing Justin Herbert's actual shoes, and they probably but sure, he wants to trade Justin Herbert.
Yeah. All right, we have a couple more minutes here to take some questions. So go ahead and fire away if you haven't asked one yet, or if we missed one. We will take questions for a couple more minutes, and then we'll head out of here for the day.
Yeah, and can't believe I have to say this, but stop talking about making love to dogs in the chat. I can't believe I banned it to 2 people so far for that. Leave your comments to yourself.
Yeah, extremely weird. Extremely weird. And don't be asking people if they're single. This is not that kind of chat.
No. Nope.
Brandon, if Mike McCarthy gets fired, would you guys like to bring him as OC next offseason?
I don't know. I have no good answer for that, to be completely honest. And I don't think they would anyway.
Greg Roman will be the OC next year. No ifs and or buts for me. I think that is 100% the case. If they wanted to bring in Mike McCarthy as a senior advisor, that's cool with me. I think the passing schemes are pretty different. Mike McCarthy comes from the similar world as Sean Payton. If you watch the Cowboys offense, you probably see a lot of the same kind of concepts that the Chargers ran in 2021 and 2022.
Mm-hmm.
But he could come be a senior advisor. I think that's fine, but he will not be offensive coordinator. Greg Roman will be offensive coordinator next year.
Yeah, Greg Roman is at least a 2-year thing, I feel.
Yeah. Unknown, Steven, is Tyler Warren better than Bowers? I have not watched him well enough, but I'm going to bet no. Brock Bowers is one of the 5 best players I've ever studied. It's going to be very difficult for any tight end to be better than the grade that I gave him last offseason.
Yeah. I mean, and Brock Bowers, I think, did we both have him over Joe Alt in terms of rankings?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get why you'd go Alt, obviously, over a tight end. But Brock Bowers right now is on a freaking, with nobody at quarterback on the Raiders.
Yeah.
It's unfair, again, that Telesco did not draft a tight end last year and then got the tight end who's going to break the single season rookie record for receptions, period.
Yeah.
Not just for tight ends.
Yeah, he's on pace to have a better rookie season than Puka did last year. So he's not a traditional tight end, right? But he is a tight end, and it's just kind of crazy what he's doing. And I said like 2 weeks ago he was a top 3 tight end, and some of my NFL friends who are like our general follows that I talk with from time to time, they were like, "This is ridiculous. How can he be a top 3 tight end? And he's played 4 games." I'm like, "Are we watching the same player or not?"
Yeah.
So it's just he's an unreal player. Yeah. So is Michael Mayer back for them, or is he still on his like personal thing?
No idea. My dad is sort of checked out of.
Your dad's checked out. Your dad's done.
Yeah, it was a fun 2 games.
I can't say I blame him. Back to Gardner Minshew we go, baby.
Yeah, after getting killed by the Panthers, I think my dad was like, "Okay, cool. See you next year."
Oh man, tough week for the Panthers. Back to Bryce Young and no Deontay, no Adam Thielen against the Broncos. That's not going to be good.
No, that's awful. What a terrible situation to return to.
Yeah. Chargers 4-5-2-1. Who scares you the most on the Saints defense? I think Alontae Taylor is probably their best player on defense at this point.
Yeah, and healthiest. We'll see how he does when he moves more outside, but I'm like, that was where we watched him more at Tennessee and liked him doing quite a bit. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, Cam Jordan hasn't had like a huge year or anything.
No, he's kind of a backup now.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like the 3rd most edge rusher snaps. Yeah, sure. Taylor, one of the corners.
Yeah, it's Taylor. Lattimore, when he's healthy, is still one of those guys, but I don't think he's fully healthy quite yet.
Yeah.
And then Demario Davis is still a really good player. It's just not the same kind of player he used to be. Casual or general question from NSN: who are the best offensive OC minds right now? If you're just talking OC, Ben Johnson is number 1 on the list by like a massive margin, I would say.
Yeah, him. It's tough because a lot of good offenses, the play caller is the head coach. So, I can't say like the Packers.
Right.
Or the Rams. I mean, Petzig had a lot of hype entering this season. Slowick had hype entering this season.
And Slowick's been bad this year. People are not happy with him in Houston.
No. It's far and away Ben Johnson. And of course, there's that report yesterday or Ben Johnson said that Penei Sewell is throwing passes.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, come on, man. Stop having so much fun.
He's just out there having a blast. I would probably put Todd Monken up there as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's probably it. I would probably say the 2 of them. And who was the first name you mentioned?
Petzing,
yeah. I like Petzing. I thought they did a lot of cool things on offense last week. But if you're just talking general offensive minds, it's obviously Andy Reid is probably at the top of that list. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Matt LaFleur, I think, should be on that list as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be tough to remember that, like, oh, look at these guys doing it with weapons that are from the 2nd and 3rd and 4th round. It's like, yes, but Greg Roman is not those play callers. I'd love to get Reed and Wicks and these guys on the team, and they could go crazy in the offense, but that's not really Roman.
Yeah. NSN says if the Chargers win this weekend, he's putting pineapple on his pizza.
Okay, awesome. No pineapple if it's like I don't know. You and Jose have some really intense.
It's not quite the same thing, but that is funny. LD Bruin says Ben Johnson better not go to the Raiders next season.
I don't think he will. I don't think he wants. He's waiting for a great. He waited for a great situation. He basically, it sounds like, was Chargers or bust last year. No, he's going to be. Well, who did I say? Oh, Cowboys. No, not Cowboys. That's going to be Cliff. Oh, Cliff. I guess you could mention Cliff Kingsbury. with Washington right now as an OC. I don't know. Ben Johnson's gonna go somewhere. I just go to the NFC. Ben Johnson to the Jaguars.
I was gonna say he's gonna want to go somewhere where there is a quarterback, or a path to get a quarterback. The Raiders might be in a position where they can go trade for a quarterback if they really wanted to, but there's not really anybody that I think is like super out there. But he's not gonna leave for a bad situation. This is very clear at this point. He's had several opportunities where if his goal was just to go jump at being a head coach, he would be somewhere else right now. So he's going to be patient. Eagles, I could see. I really could. They have the money to go chase him if they really wanted to. They have the offensive line.
That'd be a good transition.
I don't know how he would feel about working with Jalen Hurts though, because Jalen Hurts actively does not throw to the middle of the field. And that's like so crucial to their offense. So that would be a little clunky fit, but he would have an awesome time coaching behind that offensive line with Lane Johnson and all those guys. Bull prods, don't shut your mouth. Don't even put that out into the universe.
Andy Reid retires.
Ben Johnson. No, we cannot say these kind of things. Like, just no.
Oh man. Andy retires and Ben Johnson takes over. Please, no. Thankfully, the timing won't work out. I need Ben Johnson to go to a team bad enough where he gets fired in 3 years or 2 years and then ends up the Chargers coordinator in a couple of years or something.
Are you sure the timing won't work out there? Are we sure?
How long is Andy Reid? Didn't he just sign an extension?
Yes.
Not that he can't retire.
If the Chiefs three-peat, I think Andy is done. I think that's a swan song of all swan songs, and I think he retires.
I don't know, man. 4-peat's even cooler. That can't happen. If that vacancy is open, Ben Johnson's gonna quit and go work for the Chiefs. Like that can't happen. How old is Andy Reid? He's not almost 80.
Oh, he's not that old. He's younger. I think he's around the same age as Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He's 66.
Definitely not almost 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. If they win again, like you might as well just run up the scoreboard. Although I don't know how much interest he has in doing it, but I don't know. And then what, does Spags stay?
Yeah, this I was actually talking with a coworker about this, like the whole Chiefs plan of succession. Steve Spagnuolo has been there for years. He could easily just kind of try and keep the thing going, and that could be what they do. They also have is it Matt Nagy or Jim Nagy? I forget which one's the coach and which one's the Senior Bowl guy. Jim's the Senior Bowl guy. Matt Nagy is the coach. He's obviously was the head coach of the Bears. He's been with Andy Reid forever. So they have some internal options if they kind of want to just do that aspect of things. But the second Andy Reid retires, they will have no shortage of options. I think head coaches around the league would actively quit their jobs to potentially interview to coach Patrick Mahomes. So,
yeah.
Anyways, we'll see. I don't know. Andy's been talking about retiring for a couple of years now, and I think if they three-peat, there's a real chance he goes away and just is what better way to finish than 4 Super Bowls in 6 years and three-peat.
So am I rooting for that now? I guess am I rooting for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl to get any?
No, because then it could mean they get Ben Johnson.
That's true.
I don't know,
man. It would never happen, but Ben Johnson to the Bears could be fun. It'll never happen, but I'd love to see him take those weapons and just go ham.
Yeah. Ben will have his choices. He's a great coach, as we have seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Do we want to end on a Chiefs conversation?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. We can find another one. Jose, anything else?
Alan Galladay said Jets for Ben Johnson, 0 chance. Jets is an awful job, except for analytics people. Shout out Arjun.
Everybody at the Jets sucks.
Yeah, definitely not Carolina. That is the worst situation in the NFL. But
yeah, by far, unfortunately, Jets isn't great either.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's. I don't know how coordinator or coaches feel about the Jaguars owners. Like, hey, you're taking Trevon Walker in the first pick. It's like, oh, thanks.
yeah. If Ben Johnson could like bring somebody from the front office to Jacksonville, I think that would be very beneficial. And
One more
Trevor
question.
and Jared Goff are kind of similar.
One more question from unknown. Do you think we will be more funner? Who's got it funner than us?
Yes, I think we will be more funner. The Justin Herbert getting healthy is a huge thing for this offense. Like back-to-back weeks, they've thrown for 237 yards, which was the most the Broncos have given up, and then 348 yards this past week. So Herbert being healthy changes things. It's not really news to anybody in this chat. So I think they will be funner going forward.
It's like, when should we break out the "Who's got it funner than us" chant on this chat? Like, what is that after a win? After they score? After okay, after a win for sure. When they score a second half touchdown. When they, I don't know. When Scott Matlock catches his fade, that'll happen, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good question to end on. Do you think the Chargers will come out of this next stretch 3-0 if Bosa gets healthier? So obviously they have the Saints this week. They play the Browns next week. Is that right? Yes. That's right. And then the Tennessee Titans the week after that.
I actually think I'm very worried about that Browns game. Unfortunately, Watson is not playing, which now makes their offense a little better.
Yeah.
And now they are sellers, of course, but going to Cleveland, playing that defense, potentially a future teammate on that team, but playing that defense sucks. And I'm curious how inspired they'll play. Like, I hate that right about now, the Browns maybe figure out on offense. Oh, and Nick Chubb is getting healthier and is finally returning. So if the Chargers don't have their weapons, like this week, if they don't have their weapons, they could win. If they don't have them next week, a little scary.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more nervous about that one than I was a few weeks ago. Obviously, not having Deshaun Watson out there, it's difficult to be worse than that. So I think Jameis, at the very least, the Browns offense will be much more explosive now because Watson was like actively not throwing the football downfield. He was actually not doing a whole lot with the football. So Jameis, like, he'll give you some opportunities for interceptions. He's Jameis. Like, that will be the key thing, is if they can, force him into some turnovers, they'll be probably fine. But the Browns, I think, are a much more difficult matchup now that they have made that change. So I'm a little bit more nervous. Theoretically, the Chargers should be able to go 3-0. They're going to have a quarterback advantage, a coach advantage in every single one of those matchups. They have a better defense than all of those teams right now. The Browns defense has been kind of disappointing and also might be selling pieces in the next couple weeks. On paper, it is definitely possible. I probably will not predict 3-0. I think I would settle at 2-1, which is kind of unfortunate. Going into this 4-game stretch, including the Cardinals game, I kind of figured they could go 3-1, but you lose to the Cardinals. You could lose to the Browns. You could lose to any of these teams. I think losing to the Titans, I would be surprised. Like, the Titans are not a good football team, and they also are selling pieces. So I think going 2-2 in this stretch is kind of a disappointment, but
it would be.
Does kind of seem like that's the way that we're trending.
Yeah, would be a disappointment. The Cardinals loss really just screeching brake sound you could hear, I feel like, on my enthusiasm for the next few games, or my confidence in the next few games. So I think they'll beat the Saints. That's a tough one. Not a tough one, but given the injuries, it's a tough one. Titans, they should win. Like, 1-2 is the worst case scenario, I guess. But 2-1 seems fine. 2-2 in the stretch, though, is disappointing.
Yeah, so if they win 2 games and lose 1, they would be 5-4. heading into the difficult stretch, you would definitely need to split. The Ravens and Bengals. You probably have to beat one of them. That would put you at 5-5.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, no, that would put you at 6-5.
Yeah.
Lose to the Chiefs probably. Then you're 6-6 heading into the final stretch of that season.
Yeah.
Not the worst position to be in, but you probably have to beat a team that you shouldn't beat, on paper. Like if they could beat the Ravens, like that would be monumental for this team. Unfortunately, I think the Ravens are kind of a buzzsaw right now. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But if this team is 6-6 heading into this home stretch, it's not the worst case scenario. It's not, the end of the world in the AFC right now. But they've got to handle some business against some of these not as good teams going forward.
Yep. Cross the bridge when we get there.
All right. There we go. Much better conversation to end on than talking about the Chiefs. All right. That's going to do it for us today. Like I said, Tyler is not going to be here tomorrow. Alex Katzen will be live with me. Recapping the game will be about 10-15 minutes after the game goes final. We'll jump on and have that conversation. And then Tyler and I will be back on Tuesday. Next Thursday is Halloween. So we are not going live on Halloween. And then we'll be back next Saturday for our usual stuff that day. And we'll preview the upcoming game for that week. So bit of a different schedule next week due to Halloween being on a Thursday. And hopefully you guys enjoy your holiday that day. Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out?
Good luck to everyone watching the game. I will not be watching it. I'll be busy. So good luck and hopefully it goes well.
Yes, hopefully it goes well. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. It was a great chat today. Great live questions. One of the funnier moments in podcast history. Thanks to Jose. So make sure to like, comment, tell a friend. All that stuff does help continue to grow the show. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.